So by way of, I guess, background about me and who I am, so I realised I didn't officially introduce myself. So my name's Fiona, and I'm the incoming or current president for SIMNI. And my profession, I'm a professional facilitator and trainer. So what I do as my day job is deliver leadership programs, specifically in local government. So I've been doing that for the last 2.5 years, basically at the end of 2020, when everything went pear-shaped in the world. I had the opportunity to pivot, like many people did, and I stopped doing the marketing business development for companies and organisations, and I got to go into facilitation and training full-time. So that was my shift, and I realised that my gifts and talents, Suzanne spoke about the capability being around talent and love. So my talent in love is this work, to be able to connect people to practical tools that they can use to empower themselves, better themselves, and then ultimately lead themselves and then others. So, you know, we get to walk away today, and so much of what Susan talked about was knowing yourself, understanding your truth. And so this little session that we're going to do is very much for you. So the very first question I want to ask, I want you to answer, is what does leadership mean to you? So this is sort of a self-reflective moment. So a couple of minutes to self-reflect, and also with what Susan shared with us today is giving you a beautiful frame for that. So just as a moment, just have a think about, well, what does leadership actually mean to me? What's my flavour of leadership? So have a bit of a self-reflect first, and then have a quick conversation at your table and share some of that with the people at your table.
Can we have a for example, please?
Okay, so leadership, thank you, Cass, yes. So leadership for me implies followership. So you cannot be a leader without followers. So when I think about leadership, when it relates to me, I immediately think about who's following me, who's looking at me. I have my beautiful 2 nieces in the room here. They're 13 and 11 years old, and they've been watching me their whole lives, and I've been watching them their whole lives. And I know that what I do and how I act and who I am, they're automatically following my lead. So for me, that's a big part of leadership, is who's following, and also who do I want to follow me. So yeah, is that enough of an example, Cass?
Thank you.
Yep, beautiful. Okay, over to you. What does leadership mean to you? What are some of the words that come up? What are some of the thoughts, memories, ideas? Have a bit of a scribble on that first page in that blank section under that first question. So the next one is, who do you lead? So I want you to start to think about who are all the people in your life that you intentionally lead, and also unintentionally, people who are looking at you and observing you. And you may have a leadership role and a level of influence over those people and not necessarily realise it. So for a lot of us, family is the most logical people that we're automatically leading, whether we know it or not. And hands up, did anyone put myself? Okay. Was it an immediate instinct, first thing you wrote? For those of us that it wasn't the first bit they wrote, it took a little bit. There's a line of inquiry there. And how often, as women, do we put ourselves second or last behind everyone else's needs? Most of the time. And there's conditioning that happens, and it's different conditioning when we're growing up women than men. So our males, our young boys and our young men, and even our older men, they're taught and told that they must lead. Remember, there's like heaps of caveman stuff right back for both of us. You know, all of that conditioning that we have as human beings around protectors, providers. And the other thing when I was preparing for this that I thought was really interesting, and again, I love what Susan said about her upbringing and the what was happening in the world when she was a teenager and a 20-year-old. And my mum's in the room today. So my mum finished high school in grade 10 and went to work at the bank. What year was that, Marilyn?
1964.
1964. Okay, so is it true that you could not get a loan in your own name without either your husband or your father's signature, and you worked at the bank and they paid your salary?
Yep, and I couldn't do that even when I was 21.
When you're of legal age, 21, voting rights,
No,
still couldn't do it.
no.
So this is one generation. One generation. For all of my 20-year-olds in the room and my younger than 20-year-olds, the financial freedom that we have as women now, you know, as a 16-year-old, my incredible mother said, I'm going to teach you about credit. I'm going to make you a second signatory on my credit card, and I'm going to explain interest-free days and all that sort of stuff. And she said, I'm going to watch your expenses, and I'm not going to let you fall. I'm not going to let you get into horrific debt, and I'm going to let you make mistakes. So she gave me a really safe space to operate in, to learn about financial matters as a woman, as a 16-year-old.
Financial independence.
Financial independence, exactly. So this is the education piece that I'm very passionate about, and something that I will focus on in my presidency within Soroptimist International this year and next. And so these are the interesting elements to think about around who and how we're leading. Deep, and you don't realise, it wasn't until now as a 40-year-old woman, 43-year-old woman, that I realised how significant that was. And also, you know, just how much freedom we have, but then how much responsibility comes with that freedom. And there's so many young women that I think don't necessarily realise what has been fought and won by the previous generation, and also what is trying to be taken away again around rights and freedoms for women. Okay, so on to the next piece. So this is where we get to take 3 or 4 minutes, really simple, and I want you to have a look at how well am I leading myself right now. So you've got your circle diagram. And essentially, if you can imagine, each wedge at the centre is 0 and at the outer edge is 10. So it's a scale of 0 to 10. I want you to rate yourself in each of those areas of the circle by colouring in the wedge to the level that you think how well you're currently leading. So in passion and purpose, right now in my life, I would say that I'm at about an 8 in what I do in my calling. For mental health and mind stuff, for me at the moment, it would be around a 5. Self-care is a really important thing for me that I'm focused on at the moment, etc. Does that make sense? So you're colouring in your wedge, observing your wheel. Who's got a super wonky one? Yeah, right. So if you were to try and roll that wheel round and round at the moment, how well do you think it would roll? Clunky, right? Not so well, yeah. And once you, it's almost like a box or a square for some of us, where you flip it over, and it's like it takes a lot of energy to then keep it moving. And for those of you that were authentic in your answers, that's probably how life feels a little bit right now. A bit like, oh gosh, keep going. So, one big thing I want to say is, the goal is not, listening up, the goal is not to have 10 across all of them. How realistic is that as a goal? To be at 10 out of 10 for all areas of your life at all the times? It's not, it'd be lovely, but it's not realistic, right? So what we're aiming for is, how can we smooth it out enough so that the big bits that are low at the moment lift that little bit enough to be in balance so that the wheel cycles more efficiently. Yeah? So I want you to think about now, choose your one segment where you've got the lowest rating. So the area where you need to do the most work to raise that rating. And I want you to have a go at answering these 3 questions around how you might change, make a little adjustment in that area of life to bring it up to a closer, more balanced level with the rest of your wheel. So the B is, who do I need to authentically be? How do I need to behave and what do I need to believe? Conversely, you can ask the question in reverse. What is it about what I'm believing right now or how I'm behaving right now that's making me give myself a lower rating in this area? So often we go straight to have, what do I want to achieve in this area? I want to be healthy and vital, right? So we go straight to, I want to have health and vitality. Or more often it's, I want to lose weight. Ugh. Amputate your arm, job done, weight lost. It's not a good belief or choice. You got to work with your brain a bit more and go, okay. And often the weight that we're running away from has nothing to do with our health and vitality. Yeah, so I want to be healthy and vital. So that's what I have. I want to have health and vitality. So what do I need to believe about myself in order to be healthy and vital? How do I need to behave in order to be healthy and vital? And then what do I need to do? What needs to be done to make it happen? Does that make sense? Have you got a sense of any questions about what we're doing in this section? Okay, beautiful. Have a go and help each other out. Yeah. So the have part is ultimately, what do I want to achieve? What's the outcome that I want to achieve? What do I want to have accomplished? So it could be a thing, it could be a goal. Yeah. So that's the have part. And so often we do it the reverse. We say, I want to have this, so I've got to do that. And we forget to have a conversation about who we're going to be first. So for those of you that are on to the next bit, the very last piece on the last page is taking your ideas from the be, do, have and putting them into an action plan. So actually going, what are 3 actions that I'm willing to take? So remember, Susan talked about the willingness to be emotionally intelligent, the willingness to learn that skill. So without willingness, nothing is accomplished. We're going to start with the will. So what 3 actions am I willing to take over the next 3 months to increase my leadership capacity in that area that I chose? So you've already come up with some ideas just before. So then how do you translate that into actions? Who do you need to talk to? Who do you need to ask for support? What resources do you need to ask for? Do you need to re-educate yourself and others about who you are and what you're trying to achieve? Do you need to start saying no to things? And start saying yes to yourself more? The other way to look at it, and this is something that I really, really love as women, how good are we at giving our girlfriends advice and then not taking that advice for ourselves? So good, isn't it? So what advice would I give someone else that I'd be willing to take action on myself? And that's something that I'm taking on for this year. Anytime I find myself, Beck, last night we had a beautiful catch up. I found myself handing out advice. God, it's good advice. I've got to start taking it for myself. So that's another lens you could look through. And if you've got your girlfriends at your table, ask them what advice they'd give you and then write that down. I'm so reluctant to stop these conversations, but I want to give you the last little piece. I know this is where the gold dust happens, isn't it? So good. And this is the invitation. This is the invitation to actually keep the conversation going. So one of the projects that I am launching as part of my presidency within SIMNI is our mentoring program. So I love this quote, and if any of you follow Brene Brown or listen to any of her podcasts, Highly recommend this particular episode. So this incredible young woman created a mentoring platform, a software platform that she ended up selling for millions of dollars, and was one of the first African American women to do that and to float a company and all that sort of stuff. And I think I want to say she was 23 or 24 at the time, so one of those incredible women that just, saw a need and then just went about making it happen. And in her podcast, she talks about how challenging it was, how difficult it was, and how there were times where she was on the phone to her girlfriends, and I can so relate. My beautiful best friend Jodie's here today. Where you pick up the phone and you go, I can't do it, I don't know what to do, and they just sit there and they just are with you and are present in it, and they go, what do you need? Yes, and she makes me a chai. It's beautiful. So, it's a really raw and authentic conversation, and I love this definition of mentoring. And she says mentoring should be, because it's not how it normally is seen, but it's how I want us to see it. It should be a fulfilling relationship between somebody with more experience and somebody with less. That's it. In whatever walk of life, someone with more and someone with less, with a goal of helping both individuals become elevated versions of themselves. How great is that as a descriptor? And I think so often we use the mentoring terminology in workplaces, and that's the only place we use it. And we don't talk about how do we mentor each other in life. So that's the invitation. The invitation is to be part of an ongoing conversation with this movement and this group of people in the room. There's a SIMNI member on just about every table here today. And you also have on your tables, thanks Marnie, feedback form. So if you want to find out more about how to be part of the SIMNI mentoring program, please grab out your phones, scan the QR code, provide us with feedback on today, and the last question is, do you want to be part of the mentoring program? And there's a yes, tell me more, no, I'm okay for the moment, or maybe I'd like to find out more first, and then you can provide us with your contact info so that we can connect you. And the idea is that, and there's a question around what is your passion and purpose, and we'll connect people in our SIMNI network, in our club as well as our broader network, with each other based on like passion and purpose. We have incredible members of SIMNI, from small business owners to people who work in suicide prevention and mental health, to vets, to, early literacy and learning. We've got just such a plethora of women that are involved, and we want to connect you with each other. That's the other way that we take a really lovely event like this and make it bed into your lives long after the event is done. So that's the invitation. And please obviously take the time to provide us feedback on the event as well, because that's really, really helpful to us and also to the venue for today.